Have you ever made a promise you couldn't keep? A vow so sacred, breaking it would haunt you forever? Tonight, we delve into the chilling tale of Eli, a man whose life was shattered by a single fateful pledge. But before we unravel his tragic story, I want you to consider, what promise would you die for? Picture this: a moonlit night, an abandoned cabin deep in the woods, and a whispered oath that would change everything. That's where our story begins, but it's far from where it ends. Stay with me, because in the next 10 minutes, you'll discover how a simple promise can become a death sentence. Eli was just like any of us, a normal guy with dreams, fears, and a whole life ahead of him. But on that fateful night, he made a decision that would seal his fate. It all started when his best friend, Jake, invited him on a camping trip. "It'll be fun," Jake said, "just like old times." Little did Eli know, this would be the last adventure of his life. As they set up camp in the dense forest, miles from civilization, the air grew thick with an unsettling silence. No chirping crickets, no rustling leaves, just an eerie stillness that seemed to swallow every sound. That's when Jake turned to Eli, his eyes gleaming with an intensity that sent shivers down Eli's spine. "I need you to promise me something," Jake whispered, his voice barely audible over the crackling campfire. "No matter what happens tonight, no matter what you see or hear, you can't tell anyone. Ever. Can you promise me that, Eli?" Now I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, what would you do in Eli's shoes? Would you make that promise, knowing it could change everything? Because for Eli, those words were the beginning of the end. Without hesitation, Eli nodded. "I promise," he said, sealing his fate with 2 simple words. But as the night wore on, Eli realized the gravity of his vow. Strange noises echoed through the forest, shadows danced at the edge of their campsite, and Jake wasn't acting like himself. As the hours ticked by, Eli witnessed horrors that would haunt him for the rest of his days. Unspeakable acts that defied explanation, committed by the very friend he thought he knew. But he had made a promise, and Eli was a man of his word. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Eli tried to forget that night, to bury the memories deep within his mind. But the weight of his secret grew heavier with each passing day. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The promise consumed him from the inside out. And that's when the whispers started. At first, just a faint murmur in the back of his mind. But soon they grew louder, more insistent. The voices of those he had sworn to protect with his silence. They begged for release, for justice, for the truth to be told. Eli's world began to crumble. His relationships fell apart, his job slipped away, and his sanity teetered on the edge. The promise that once seemed so simple had become a monstrous burden, crushing him beneath its weight. 1 year to the day after that fateful camping trip, Eli found himself standing at the edge of a cliff, the same forest stretching out before him. The whispers had become a deafening roar, drowning out everything else. In that moment, he faced an impossible choice: break his promise and live with the consequences, or keep it and lose everything, including his life. Now, I want you to think about your own promises. What vows have you made that you'd do anything to keep? Because for Eli, that promise was a death sentence. As he stood on that cliff, the weight of his secret finally proved too much to bear. They found his body 3 days later, a crumpled form at the base of the cliff. In his pocket, a single note. "I'm sorry, I had to keep my promise. But here's the twist that will chill you to your core." Jake was found too, alive and well, with no memory of that night in the woods. The horrors Eli had witnessed, the secret he had died to protect, it all vanished like smoke in the wind. So, was it all in Eli's mind? A delusion born of guilt and fear? Or did Jake's forgotten actions truly drive his friend to the edge? We may never know the truth, but one thing is certain: a promise can be more powerful and more deadly than we ever imagined. As I sit here recounting this tale to you, I can't help but reflect on my own promises. The vows I've made, the secrets I keep. And I wonder, what would I be willing to die for? There's one promise I made long ago, a pledge so sacred I've never spoken of it to another soul, until now. Because after hearing Eli's story, I realized the danger of keeping such weighty secrets. So, dear viewer, I'm going to share my promise with you. But remember, once you hear it, you'll be bound by it too. Are you ready? Years ago, on a night much like the one in Eli's tale, I stumbled upon something in these very woods. Something that defies explanation. Something that shouldn't exist in our world. And I made a vow to protect it, to keep its existence secret from those who would seek to exploit or destroy it. This entity, for I don't know what else to call it, showed me visions of both wonder and terror. It revealed the fragile threads that hold our reality together and the chaos that lurks just beyond the veil. In exchange for this knowledge, I swore to be its guardian, its keeper in this realm. But the burden of this secret has grown heavier with each passing year. Like Eli, I felt the whispers in the dark, the pull of forces beyond my understanding. I've watched as those around me sensed something different, something changed about me, yet I could never explain. And now, as I share this with you, I feel a shift in the air, a tension, as if the very fabric of reality is stretching, ready to tear. By breaking my silence, have I unleashed something that can never be contained again? I look to you now, dear viewer, and I ask, will you help me bear this burden? Will you keep this secret, knowing the weight it carries? Because once you're part of this, there's no going back. The entity knows, and it will be watching you too. As the sun sets and shadows lengthen, I leave you with this final thought. Some promises are meant to be broken, while others must be kept at all costs. The trick is knowing which is which before it's too late. So what will you do with the secret I've shared? Will you carry it silently, like Eli, until it consumes you? Or will you find a way to bear its weight without losing yourself? The choice is yours. But remember, in the world of dark promises and hidden truths, nothing is ever as it seems. Sweet dreams, dear viewer. And may your promises be kinder than Eli's or mine.